Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by our good friends from High B. Dan Casper here, as always. Big thanks for tuning in to this episode of the podcast, where we've got some DK show highlights. Justus Cleveland will be joining us in the second half of this podcast. We talk everything from the Super Bowl matchup to some Super Bowl memories with the Packers, little baseball and such with Justus. So he's coming up. But we begin the podcast talking a little bit about, well, the Super Bowl matchup. We know who it's going to be, so let's get right to it. Super Bowl 59 matchup. The Eagles taking down the Commanders yesterday afternoon. That game kind of getting... I mean, the Commanders were hanging around there in a little bit in the first half and a half, but then the Eagles putting the hammer down, winning 55-23, and then the nightcap, you had Kansas City edging out the Buffalo Bills 32-29. The Chiefs advancing, looking for a three-peat, the first time in NFL history, a three-peat, and they'll be going up against the Eagles, who, well, they defeated just a couple of years ago as well. So, got a rematch there. I'll be honest with you, it's not the matchup I want. It's going to be, I mean, on paper, player-wise, team-wise, talent-wise, this looks like it's a good matchup. I mean, let's be real here. Just player-wise, you know, Saquon and that offense going up against the Chiefs' defense with Spags and such. Then you got, you know, Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator for the Eagles, going up against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid over there. So, I mean, there's matchup-wise, it's a good matchup. It's a good matchup. Is it the matchup that a lot of us probably wanted? No. And it's just strictly from fatigue. Let's be real. I know I'm not in the minority in saying this, just because of talking with a lot of you, and when we did our polls on Friday, majority of us wanted Commanders and Bills. I think a lot of it was just something different too. Getting a little fatigue in that, just getting something a little bit different in there. So yes, I was 100% rooting for Commanders and Buffalo on Friday, or on yesterday, on Sunday. And it didn't happen. So it's like, on to the NFL draft, as I said last night. Moving on to the NFL draft. I'm still watching the Super Bowl. Some people take it too serious, like thinking I wasn't going to watch or anything like that. I'm still watching the Super Bowl. I'm still going to be paying attention to it, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't want it Buffalo and Commanders, just a little breath of fresh air in there. But you take away the personal feelings and the fan part of it all. This matchup-wise, it's a pretty darn good matchup. And you got to tip your cap to it, just with all these different ones. We just mentioned a couple of them just a minute or two ago. There's good matchups across the board here. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And you just hope that whenever you get to a Super Bowl, if your team's not in it, you're just hoping for a good matchup. You're hoping for a good game. You're hoping that it's not a blowout, a la Denver, Seattle. How many years ago was that? I mean, goodness gracious, that is one of the worst Super Bowls of my lifetime, maybe since, was it Broncos and Giants, or even Baltimore Broncos and Falcons, excuse me, and then Giants and Ravens. Those were some clunkers and duds over there too, but you just hope it's a good game, and you hope it's a good matchup. I mean, Eagles and Chiefs, when they were in the Super Bowl just a couple of years ago, it was a really good matchup and such. So that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, at this point in time on a Monday, we got, 13 days until kickoff and that. If I had to pick somebody to root for, as much as this pains me to say, it's probably leaning towards the Eagles just a little bit. The thing is like, I love Andy Reid. And I love Andy Reid. But it kind of ends right there. Otherwise, I'm fatigued right now with the Chiefs. But Andy Reid, man, I mean, for crying out loud, this guy, What a career, like what a second half career Andy Reid has put together with the Chiefs. I mean, from when he goes to the Chiefs, probably not a Hall of Famer, no Super Bowl, right? Just one Super Bowl appearance in his coaching career with the Eagles, and it was a loss to the Patriots when they had T.O. and such in the Super Bowl. And then he goes to the Chiefs, and just in the last, since 2018, 2019, what a run. What an absolute run for this man. If you go to 2018, it's when they went 12-4 that year. And in 2016 they went 12-4 as well. But 2019 they won the Super Bowl. 2020 they went to the Super Bowl, fell to Tampa Bay, if you remember that one. 2021 AFC Championship game lost to the Bengals. 2022 Super Bowl champs. 2023 Super Bowl champs. 2024 AFC champs. I mean, the run that Andy Reid has put together in the last little over a dozen years has been absolutely remarkable, and I would say easily is in the conversation when you look at just this stretch. If you want to go to 2018, 2018, I think they were in the AFC Championship game. Is that when they lost to the Patriots, I believe, there too? But was that the D Ford false starts game, remember, in the postseason? But you look at this run that his Chiefs teams, it's just it's mind-boggling dominant. And good for him, too. Like, obviously, there's the Packers connection, being an assistant with Green Bay, with Mike Holmgren in the 90s and such. And I know Ron Wolf has met. This is what I appreciate with Ron Wolf, too, over the years. He's a Hall of Fame general manager. But he has admitted a couple times, like, yeah, one of my regrets was this. One of my regrets was that. And the one regret that I think a lot of people remember is that he always kind of regretted not maybe getting Favre enough receivers and offensive weapons and such. But another regret, and Lance Allen, shout out Rice Lake, but Lance Allen, sports reporter Lance Allen posted it up yesterday too. He remembers Ron Wolf telling him one time, one of his regrets was not promoting Andy Reid after Mike Holmgren left. Had the all roads lead to championships. Ray Rhodes era for 1 year. And that's just a what if. That's a big what if. Like, what if Andy Reid would have been named head coach for the Packers? Would Andy Reid be in this position? Who knows? If Andy Reid was head coach of the Packers, would he still be coaching the Packers? Odds are probably not, but never say never. Would he have 3 Super Bowl championships and going for a 4th this weekend? Who the heck knows? Would it be with the Chiefs? Who the heck knows? But I think the thing that impresses me most about Andy Reid, too, and the thing is like, we know he ain't no young man out there. These, hot, young offensive coordinators with these offenses. It's like you got to get the Shanahan tree. You got to get the McVay tree. All these guys out there. And you got a 66-year-old head coach calling plays, running circles around. I mean, it just feels like every time if you watch a Chiefs game and you watch an Andy Reid offense, he's got something new, another new wrinkle. He's doing something different over there. The way that he has adapted and altered his playbook over the years, that's what head coaches and play callers should be doing. Too many, for whatever reason, are so stuck in egos that this is the way we're going to do it. This is the way I want to do it. It's this way or the highway. I don't care. And for how much Andy Reid has adapted, adjusted, changed things, I mean, it's remarkable. Does it make it easier when you have a Patrick Mahomes over there? Of course it does. And that's why I hate sometimes to get into the conversations of, well, who deserves more credit? Is it the head coach or is it the quarterback? It's the whole Brady Belichick thing. But again, you go and you look at a lot of quote-unquote dynasties, or you look at a lot of great coaches, Super Bowl winning coaches, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. They're always kind of attached at the hip. Like the one outlier is Joe Gibbs. And I think that's what should put Joe Gibbs in a little bit more of a more prestigious category, is just because the guy won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. I mean, that's like unheard of in this day. And that just speaks more to the coaching ability of one Joe Gibbs. But, I mean, Walsh had Montana. Null had Bradshaw. Belichick and Brady. Reid and Mahomes. Lombardi and Starr. You know, a lot of those are attached at the hip. And so many people, and sometimes we get into this as like, it's got to be one or the other. And for whatever reason, we just can't say, well, it's both. It's attached at the hip. You can't say that football is the ultimate team game. But yet we try to individualize it so much in terms of who to give credit to. And really, it's just, this was a match made, perfect timing for both Mahomes and Reid. Does Patrick Mahomes succeed under another coach as much as he has succeeded under Andy Reid? Maybe. But it's a perfect combo. It's a perfect pairing between the two. And it's something that a lot of other teams, especially a lot of other fan bases, are wishing that they could get from their head coach and their quarterback. You know, I think that's going back to a little Green Bay history too. I think a lot of people are wondering, like, man, if Holmgren would have stayed, in Green Bay, would they have won maybe another Super Bowl or maybe another couple Super Bowls together, Favre and Holmgren? Could they have? I think a lot of Packers fans probably would think, yeah, maybe at least one more. Maybe, possibly. Or what if? What if Andy Reid would have been the guy? What if Andy Reid would have been the guy to replace Mike Holmgren? Would they have had another Super Bowl with Favre? I think this is just purely projection at this point because we don't know. But I do think, I mean, if you look at, I mean, we all know the Ray Rhodes era, right? I mean, that was, no. It didn't work out. And you know, I give credit to Ron Wolf for recognizing that he could tell right away it was not working out. But you go to, okay, Mike Sherman then. His first year in Green Bay, 2000, 9-7. Then it's 12-4. Then it's 12-4. 10-6, 10-6, thanks to a couple of 2 seasons there with some second half late surges just to get into the postseason. I think a lot of us would probably think, yeah, there'd be a little bit. I think we'd all feel pretty confident if Andy Reid was head coach that maybe we'd have some success there with Reid and Favre leading the charge. But who knows? It's always a what if. It's always a big question mark. So, but, yeah. Back to the Super Bowl matchup here. As much as I love Andy Reid, and I like that guy, and I love that guy. I mean, I love how he goes about it. I love his personality. I love how he game plans and just how he runs that franchise and that organization. I love Andy Reid. I can't root for the Chiefs because I have some Chiefs fatigue, man. I've got Chiefs. I know it's a personal thing. Like right now, it's just I can't do it, and I don't want to root for Philly, but I respect the heck out of what Saquon Barkley has done this year. I mean, that guy. First play of the game yesterday, it just busted off for a run. Ugh. What this guy has done this year, that's why I feel like he should get more love for MVP talks. It's going to be Lamar or Josh Allen. Saquon's probably going to finish third. But, man, I feel like you look at where Philly was trending last year. I mean, they went into an offseason thinking there was some thought, okay, Nick Sirianni's not going to be back. Then Howie Roseman deserves Executive of the Year. I don't know off the top of my head if they got an award for that. But Howie Roseman, for stepping in and saying, okay, you're going to hire Vic Fangio, you're going to hire Kellen Moore. Those are your new defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators. Yeah, kind of handcuffing Sirianni, saying, nope, these are the coordinators you're getting. And then he gets Saquon, and then he signs Badger linebacker Zach Bond. I mean, Howie Roseman, again, just nailing it. Nailing it this offseason, for crying out loud. By the way, you got Zach Bond playing linebacker for the Eagles. You've got Leo Chenal playing over there for the Chiefs. All these linebackers, former Badger linebackers right now in the NFL. Think about it. I mean, you got, if you want to do some edge rushing linebackers, TJ. That's the big one. Van Ginkel just across the border over here. You got TJ Edwards with the Bears. Bond, Chanel, Sanborn's playing a little bit with the Bears. Nick Herbig with the Steelers. I mean, Badger representation right now. Those are just few, but Badger representation at the linebacker position. Especially now, too, with Eagles and Chiefs and that. You had Bjadic, offensive line with the Commanders. Got some good Badger representation going on right now. All right, let's bring in our good buddy, Mr. Justus Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire.
How much do you want him out there in the outfield just standing?
Mm-hmm.
But he also probably wants to be standing, because you want to be loose. If anybody who's ever dealt with anything in your back, you don't want to be just sitting there because there's a chance that your back stiffens up. So
Gosh, I got images of Braun always doing stretches back there now.
So. Exactly. So maybe he wants to be out there.
Yep.
I dare open up. Does he play some first base? I feel like he could be a decent. He's got the size. He's got that length. So stretching and stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see once it comes spring, and we're getting. I have the ESPN thing up, and it has your games that are coming up for the teams you follow. And it's like the spring training games are popping up there, and we're only less than a month away before they start playing spring training games. And pitchers and catchers,
just a couple weeks now, I think so.
So we'll find out soon, but I hope he can just, for him, he can come back, hit the way he was before he got injured last year, and be that player that he was before. Mm-hmm. And maybe, hopefully, this clears that up and they can get a few good more years out of him. Got a few years left on that contract, so.
Yeah. Even yesterday, I know we were talking about, yesterday was 28 years ago. What were you doing 28 years ago yesterday? That would be 1997.
1997? I believe I was running around the Lambeau Field parking lot.
Yeah, after a Super Bowl?
With my shirt off.
Were you really?
Climbing on the snow hills, smoking a cigar.
No, you weren't.
Oh, yeah.
No, you weren't, really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
I lived less than half a mile from Lambeau. So it was they won, and we were all a bunch of my classmates, because I would have been 16 at that point.
Yeah.
And we're just what do we do? What do we do? They won. So we went over. It's like the city woke up. So I mean that's still 9, 10 o'clock at night. I think it felt like it was a later Super Bowl compared to ones lately, but the whole town, everybody was driving up and down Lombardi Avenue. We were standing in the middle of Lombardi Avenue, high-fiving cars as they drove by. Yeah, I remember just climbing on top of a snow hill and it was just one of those things that you see when teams win titles, this spontaneously celebration. And it's not, obviously the game wasn't in your town. But yeah, everybody just everybody in mass went to Lambeau Field. And this is still old Lambeau, old green monster. Yeah, Lambeau Field.
You still had Kmart, you still had Big Lots and Hardee's and all those.
Yeah, that was the year before I started working at Kmart. But yeah, I mean it was really a cool thing. And then the next day, no school.
Did they call school?
I mean, there might have been school, but
you didn't go.
I can't remember. And then they had they had the return to Titletown.
Yeah.
And
I remember watching on TV, and it just looked like it was crazy.
And it went on forever. Yeah. They were so late getting back to the stadium, and it didn't happen until 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was crazy. I remember high-fiving Fritz Shermer.
That's awesome.
Me and my buddy were just this everybody we were big Fritz Shermer fans just because of how great of a job he did with that defense there. But yeah, that's one of those memories as a kid growing up. I'll always remember just being because that's the perfect age to be 16.
Oh yeah,
your favorite team. Drove my 1983 Ford Escort over to Lambeau, and we were some of the last people to leave. I'm sure my parents were like, "Hey, Mom and Dad, we're going to Lambeau." Just being what are you doing?
That's so cool.
But
man.
Yeah, it was an amazing. Then even the next year, I still went to the celebration. I remember they still had a return to title even after they lost. I think you already sold the tickets, so you had to do it. But that day, I remember just being freezing cold, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, really cool memories to have as a teenager.
Absolutely. Man, that's so cool. No, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to top that one.
Well, part of me is thinking is like with the draft, to me, it's just mind-boggling that the NFL draft will be taking place like half a mile from where I, spent my teenage years in Green Bay.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous in the aspect of like when we're over there, like the congestion that we'll have to deal with. Like that's kind of giving me a little anxiety.
There's not, because I mean Lombardi's your main way in. Yeah. Oneida's your other,
and they're closing all that down. It's like, how do you get anywhere? Where are you going to park? It's like give me a little anxiety.
I feel like that whole area is just going to be nuts. Like I'm sure Lombardi's not going to even be open.
No, I think they already said
they
that.
They close
shut
it from
down.
Military probably on down.
Yeah,
this is me throwing Ashland Avenue. So my local knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really. It's just, but yeah, to me, it's like if I was a teenager and living there, I mean, I would have just walked out my backyard and because Military Avenue, if you know Green Bay, is right there. It was in our basically our backyard, and then it was Military Avenue, so I could see the stadium out our back window, and it was just,
So could you hear like the crowd during game days and all that too? Yeah.
I mean, I would during my college years when I'd come home and I'd be asleep at 11:55.
Yep.
The jets would come over for the flyover, and I'd hear, time to get up for the Packer game. So, I mean, to come. I always say it was so crazy to come from Cole Harbor, North Dakota, population 90, to go to Green Bay and live in the shadow of Lambeau Field. Get there the year before Brett Favre got there.
Yeah,
got there the year I think Wolf took over. So, I mean, it was 1 year of Lindy Infante, and then the rest, it's been pretty much success my whole time living in Wisconsin. So, I don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
Again, I always say this. I feel like I say it weekly. You could be the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, you absolutely could.
I'd have a lot to look back on.
Also, I didn't even realize this till yesterday. I think I saw it from, Lance Allen had posted it. Would have been Euchre's 91st birthday yesterday.
Yes, I had a memory on Facebook too that I posted a picture of him playing the trump. It's the same when I put up the tuba of him.
Yeah,
and it's just oh man,
91st, 99 would have been 91 yesterday. Just a little over a week away from
all those reminders of. It's just. I think it's going to really hit me driving and throwing on the game and not hearing his voice because he really was the soundtrack of summer around.
I think it's going to hit those guys too, like Grindle. And those guys, when they open up the mics and know that Uke's not going to be there.
The story, the wit, just everything that he had. I mean, I remember the days when Tommy Lasorda would come up there and they would just sit there and chat for 3 innings.
Yeah.
And I know I posted the one where he's talking the furries in Pittsburgh. Just always great. Because we put that up in the sports office and we sat there just listening. And it's it was perfect because it was a first inning that ended up going 15, 16 minutes. He's telling the story about the furries, and Braun hits a home run in the middle, and he's right back into his story. I mean, it's just almost as perfect of a Euchre, just a little time capsule of a Euchre inning that you could get. So, he's really good. I mean, one of my sports heroes, and a guy who with the humor wise, I always self-deprecating and just that's what I've always wanted to be. Is just the guy who's there he'll inform you. Yep. But I always want to give you a little entertainment, and if I have to do it at behest of myself, that's
the
easy.
thing too. Is I think one thing, especially the last few days, looking back at it, thinking about Euchre and his legacy, and one thing that always kind of comes to mind is it's okay to make fun of yourself once in a while,
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's okay.
Take life too seriously.
Yeah,
and there's enough serious stuff going on. Is that I always like to say I want to be the break from the serious stuff going on. Yep. And if I make a mistake, I'm not going to try to gloss over it. If I make a mistake, I'm going to probably make fun of myself. I had this week I couldn't talk during one of the intros. I'm just what am I doing? And I just want people to know it's I'm laughing with you at home. You're seeing me what's going on? And it's I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And I think Euchre was just the king of not taking yourself too seriously, but also having just a vast knowledge of the game and a guy who played with some of the greats in the game too.
Yes.
And always cool, just to think back that he got his start in pro ball right here at Carson Park. So really cool.
I know. On Friday too, his family through the Brewers had released another statement that they did have a private ceremony. But that said, they said that they are working with the Brewers on building a public celebration of life event that will honor Bob later this summer. More details to come. They also said an important part of Bob's life has always been to give back to others. For those interested in celebrating his memory, they listed 3 causes on there: Wounded Warrior Project, ALS Association, and the Fraudhurt Hospital and Medical College of Wisconsin for cancer research.
Yeah, so. I mean, he gave back. He had, a lot of those charity events down there in Milwaukee, and Euchre was front and center with that. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be neat. I'm sure we'll see the Euchre patch, the one that they had up on their social medias. I would love to see if they can do like a Euchre jersey.
Yeah,
like just have that in the front of the. And I'm sure they're working on that because that guy meant so much. He was the face of the Brewers. When you think of Brewers, I think Bob Euchre's maybe the first guy you think of. I mean, you've got your Robin Yountz.
Well, I when you even think about Wisconsin sports history, with all the history and the legacy of Green Bay and those icons, I think if you ask a lot of people, name a face of Wisconsin, Euchre is going to be towards the top.
Yeah. And
that's over a lot of those Packer icons and that for a lot of people.
I think so. I agree. I mean,
and what does that say about the guy? For a broadcaster,
right.
Essentially.
I mean, he transcended just sports. I mean, the fact that, the Tonight Show appearances and the fact that he was a host of was a star of a sitcom. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just shows you just how much of appeal he had, not just to Wisconsin fans, but to fans of the United States. And really, you saw the outpouring from all the national outlets about this. Is just like people really, I think it hit a lot of people because this is a guy who a lot of people grew up with.
Now, I know you being a wrestling fan, do you remember him doing some of that stuff on there, too?
Yeah. I mean, the iconic, him
the
being
Andre
the Giant, and just the one-liners that he would come up with. And, I mean, that I think for a lot of people, like, growing up when I was like 5 years, I was probably my first real, because I was, still in North Dakota during that time. That was my first real exposure. I knew Bob Euchre, not as a sports announcer when I moved to, when I moved here. Yeah. I knew Bob Euchre from TV, wrestling, movies. Yep. And then, like, as a 12-year-old, realizing you get to hear this guy on the radio 162 days a year.
Yeah.
Just to me, blew my mind. And that was during the time because I was, moving there. The Brewers weren't on TV a lot.
Right.
In a lot of places.
Yeah.
So you only could hear from the radio. No. So TV-wise, I saw a lot more of Harry Carey because WGN had all their games. So, it was kind of cool that I got to listen to Harry Carey in his final years as an announcer.
Yep.
And then got to listen to Bob Euchre in his prime and for the next 30 years. So really a lucky time.
And I think what makes it even more special, too, I mean, I think I'm comfortable in saying if Euchre wanted to go to another team, he could have easily gone to another team.
I mean, he was doing Monday Night Baseball.
Yeah.
And he was doing national games. I think he did some NBC
I remember watching this is one of my first World Series, Cleveland and the Marlins World Series, Game 7 on NBC. And it was him and Costas on there. Right. I remember that on TV.
I mean, what a combo. I think Costas probably has as many stories as anybody about him in some of those big games, too. So, yeah, I mean, that's, again, the humor's there, but the knowledge, the vast knowledge was there, too.
Absolutely. Get back to a little. So we know the Super Bowl matchup. It's Eagles-Chiefs, a replay from just a couple years ago. Can't say it's the Kelsey Bowl this time, but maybe it's the Andy Reid part 2 over there. But are you on paper? So this is how I feel. On paper, it looks like a fantastic matchup, right?
Right.
It looks like a fantastic matchup. But I do have a little fatigue. I'll admit it.
Yeah, it's very much Patriots back in the day going to so many Super Bowls. You just get to a point where it's like, I'm okay. Yeah, there's no excitement really for me going into it. Obviously, the game's always fun, but even it was a lackluster playoffs. Yeah. It really was. I think the Bills game obviously had Bills Kansas City game had some drama to it, but for the most part, there wasn't a whole lot of drama to these games, and there wasn't that big game feel almost. This whole I don't know what it was. And you say, well, the Packers were eliminated, but the Packers have been eliminated, in other years where I feel like it's still got that buzz around it. I think it's because we saw a lot of the same matchups.
Well, like the AFC, it was all the same 4 teams in the divisional round.
Yeah.
Like last year. It was just different matchups, but it was the same 4. You know, in there too. So it feels like the AFC the last couple of years has always been the same teams in there.
And I mean, that's nothing new.
No.
It's been like that through the history. But it's just like you want to see I would have loved to see Buffalo break through.
Yep.
And then, the Washingtons, having a rookie quarterback get you that far. But in the end, I mean, in that game, I think that kind of went to script in my mind. It's like Washington will give them a little bit of a run, but the Eagles are just more talented.
Yeah, I wanted Washington because it was new, but also, we were talking about, I wonder what Dan Snyder thinks about this. And then the article came out over the weekend that he hates this, how the success that the Commanders are having. Dan Snyder, the former owner.
I know.
Yeah.
It comes from, that's why I could not stand that team because of Dan Snyder.
Right, and that's where I kind of wanted them to have some success because of him. Apparently he's living in London now to get away from everything.
He's not suffering.
No.
Let's just say that. He's fine.
Yep.
But the Commanders were so unlikable for so many years.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to go back to the Joe Gibbs, the Kents when they owned the team.
Yep.
Once Dan Snyder took it over, they got real unlikable real quick. So, you wanted to see them have the success. Philly's just, Nick Sirianni tends to rub me the wrong way.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's really what it is. Like if it was maybe it was a different coach, but to me, he's just like some of his antics. So it's like I can't. The only thing maybe I want to see success for is Saquon.
Yeah,
I would love to see him. The story of you cut him loose. He goes.
Yep.
He should be the MVP.
Thank you,
but he won't be.
No, he won't
because the voting's done,
Yep.
and it was done during the regular season.
Yep.
But if you look at it now, how do you not say this guy has helped that team turn the corner? Granted, they made a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I'll give you that. But this team was a team that Sirianni almost got fired last year.
This is what I want to go. So, okay, I'm glad you brought this up because I didn't know if I should because I'm going to sound like an idiot, maybe, possibly. But I am not a Nick Sirianni fan because, I look at last year, how they were crumbling and look, he's going to be fired. So what does Howie Roseman should win Executive of the Year this year.
Yep.
So what does he do? I'm going to hire your new offensive coordinator and your new defensive coordinator, and you're going to like it. So he goes and gets Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. Says, here you go, Nick. You can keep your job, but I'm giving you the two coordinators.
Exactly.
And then he goes and gets Saquon, signs Zach Bond, and has another good draft.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I give a little bit more credit this year. I hate to take away from head coaches, but I'm giving a little bit more credit to Howie Roseman and what he did.
Oh, exactly. I mean, that's a big swing, and we've seen that happen when coordinators get changed and it's not at your behest.
Yeah,
that can. I mean, I think of Mike Sherman.
Yeah,
you lose that power, but they've managed to make it really work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if Saquon, for what he's done, and if this playoffs haven't shown, he should be the MVP.
I agree,
but if he does it, nothing to take anything away from Josh Allen.
Yeah,
are we giving it to Josh Allen this year? It sounds like
I think it's going to be Lamar, even though
or
I
Lamar.
don't think, yeah.
So of course it's a quarterback, but I feel like you've got to put the fact that Barry Sanders didn't win it. Nothing against Brett Favre, but he'd already won 2.
Yep.
Sanders should have won it on his own that year.
I'm with you 100%. If I had a vote, it would have been with Saquon.
Yeah, the league loves the quarterbacks. Yep. The league wants to, always put them up on the pedestal. But man, the way the running backs have played this year, let's start valuing that position a little bit more.
Chiefs wise, I love Andy Reid. But that's the only thing I like about the Chiefs, just because it's straight up fatigue with the rest. Like, I just think what his second career, what he did with the Eagles was awesome, but he was not a Hall of Fame coach. And what he has done the last 6 years to completely change that narrative. And now you're talking about one of the greatest of all time.
Right, now he's on the, he could be on the Mount Rushmore at this point if they get another win here.
Yep. And
he should be obviously up there now, just what they've done for the run. Is there a prop bet wondering out there most getting unsportsmanlike Mahomes versus Saquon? Because they both know how to work those sidelines.
They do, man.
That's going to be a point of it. You're going to see a point of emphasis this offseason on when to call those or make those reviewable.
Yep.
Because if these guys are holding up right before, the Saquon one I can see because the guy did take a step out of bounds and then pushed him. But it's like they're both going at 100 miles per hour.
Yep.
What do you do?
Yep. All right, that is going to do it for us on this episode of the Man Cave Podcast. Again, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Man Cave Podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify. Also available up on YouTube. Don't forget, we got those tailgate series as part of the Man Cave Podcast, and those include video editions of the podcast too, so you want to check those out. And as always, don't forget, if you could, with the kindness of your heart, give us a 5-star rating and a positive review so others can find the podcast. Until next time, I'm Dan Casper, and I'll talk to you in the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.